My name is Jamie Reed, and I hold a Master's of Science in Clinical Research Management from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a lifelong Democrat, a mom of 5 boys, and a lesbian. I am also the public whistleblower from a pediatric gender center. I saw patients from the age of 3 until the age of 26, and I worked with nearly 1,500 unique patients. I worked in pediatric gender medicine for nearly 5 years, and I was once a true believer. What I learned is that these outcomes are based on poor research with poor evidence and poor outcomes. Last week, 2 new systematic reviews of evidence were published in Canada, both of those finding that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones have limited to no evidence to support their use. Last night in Queensland, Australia, puberty blockers were banned for those under the age of 18. In the center where I worked, I saw directly the patients who were harmed by these interventions, patients whose mental health got worse after initiation, patients who mourned the permanent changes to their bodies. We had a patient who had their breasts surgically removed call us 3 months later, devastated, begging for us to put her breasts back on. I sent patients to the emergency room for surgery after the devastation of testosterone degraded their vaginal tissues, and they experienced vaginal lacerations requiring surgical repair. I blew the whistle on these interventions in Missouri, filed an affidavit with our Attorney General, and within 6 months these interventions were stopped. But Kansas City Children's Mercy had the ability to keep on doing this to the kids in your state. This all started with a small group of clinicians in the Netherlands coming up with this idea to transition kids. They were seeking the children that they believed would go on to have lifelong trouble with their sex and intervene when they were young. Why? Because the transsexual adults that they were working with were not doing well. When they completed their first study, they found that these young people were proto-gay youth. 68 out of 70 were same-sex attracted, and they transitioned them. Not because they had any certainty that they would go on to have lifetime troubles with their sex, but because our society has a long history of discomfort with the way that gays and lesbians like me live our lives in our sexed bodies. We were expendable. We were okay to be harmed, to have our endocrine systems destroyed with wrong sex hormones. We were okay to have our fertility taken away. We were okay to have our sexual function destroyed. Then the British tried to repeat the Dutch study. They cast a wider net, and this time they caught the proto-gay youth, and now they're catching the vulnerable kids with autism and trauma. They transitioned them, and they tried to do the study again, and the outcomes were so poor that they buried the research.